Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Clarity Project. I am excited because I just got a new camera and it has a little recording light on, and that is super sick. And I can see exactly how I look because the screen flips around, and that's super duper cool. And I'm just excited to get this episode running. So today's a very interesting day because it's kind of raining. It's not kind of. It is raining outside, and it's dull, and it's gray, and it's dark, and it's cloudy, and it just feels very grim. And I was sitting outside this morning with Archie and just enjoying the rain, just enjoying the noise and the ambiance of the rain. And I was just thinking, except I couldn't really pinpoint my thoughts, and I couldn't really track them down. It kind of felt empty, but like it felt like a lot of my thoughts were kind of locked behind a door, and I was left without a key, and and the room I was in was empty, and there was no way to get behind that door. And I started writing things down. I started journaling, and I was journaling exactly what I'm saying right now, which is the emptiness, the door, the lock, the key, yada yada yada. And I started to slow myself down a little bit, and then that's kind of when it wasn't a panic. It drove a sense of panic because I was talking or writing about how everything should just come out one by one and not all in a rush. Otherwise, I will get overwhelmed and it'll be hard and just one big combobulated mess of thoughts that are hard to maintain and control. And I feel like that really explains ADHD so well at times, because sometimes everything's just swirling around and you don't quite know what you're going to grab from this big blobby mess of thoughts, and nothing really comes out one at a time, no matter how hard you try. And even sometimes when you do and it works and it feels fantastic and you're able to do phenomenal things. And I was just thinking a lot about, I guess, my state of being, my state of mind this morning as I sat outside in the grim, dark, dull, gray, rainy day. Or, yeah. But, and it's something that I felt before, but never to this level of depth, never to this extent. And it just got me thinking about things that I didn't realize were ADHD. And so something that I just found out about this year is body doubling. Now, this is a term that I just learned like a couple of months ago, like early 2025. And I didn't know it was a thing. Like, I didn't even know there was a term for it. I didn't even know there was an action for it. Like, I didn't know anything about the world of body doubling. It's just something that just people in my sphere just started saying. I'm like, what exactly is that? Like, help me understand it, please. And I even went to my therapist and was like, what's body doubling? And I got the explanation. And one of my friends here in Austin does body doubling more frequently than I do, not as often, but she does it pretty frequently. And I joined her one of these times, and basically she was working on some work. I was working on editing one of my videos, and another friend was working on some work or a little personal project. And holy cow, this thing, it actually works. Like, what the hell? Where has this thing been my whole life? Like, I get in high school, it's very easy for people to have study sessions, and that's essentially what body doubling is. But I never knew it had a term. I never knew it was a psychological thing, and it just opened up a whole new perspective of how I approach some of the work that I do. Because I have everything related to the podcast on my rig, or rather on an external hard drive. And sometimes if I want to take it traveling, then I have to remember to save the projects themselves onto the hard drive. Otherwise, I won't have anything to work with. But, I mean, if I want to take it to travel to, let's say, do some body doubling, then I will have to remember to do that. But, anyways, I have no idea where I was going with that. I am so sorry for the freaking like train of thought loss. But anyways, back to body doubling. I just never knew it existed. I never, like, it just kind of popped up one day. And if you are someone who is, I don't know if it's mainly for neurodivergent people or if it works for anyone, but I mean, you see it at coffee shops and where there are just people working, and that's just kind of the environment that you see, and that's also a form of body doubling, because as long as you have someone present, or as long as there's someone in the presence, and then you can just get your work done. Sure, you may be like scrolling, freaking doom scrolling for TikTok and not actually doing your work, but I mean, hey, at least you're out and about, in the world. But you see it everywhere, and I think the science behind it is, well, first of all, like in the case of my friend, and we were at the coffee shop doing our work, when you are seeing someone who is in the same room with you and they're also being productive and doing their work, it just encourages you to do your own thing and be productive as well and do your work. So that's one thing, but also just being in the presence of someone sort of holds, in some weird way, some sort of accountability for people like me and people like you, probably. So I have a roommate, Billman, who you guys have met on a couple of occasions. And sometimes when I'm reading or writing, I'll literally just go in his room and lay down and read or write. And he'll be either doom scrolling or playing video games, just relaxing. But I'll just be there. And it's sort of like, without the external accountability, it's more of an internal accountability factor that plays in my head. Also, there is that sort of external factor of accountability, because you're in there and you're just getting work done, and there's just someone there with you. And let's say you start, losing your train of thought or getting distracted, then you still have that external accountability to help you get back on track. Like, let's say, for example, one of my friends was wanting to clean her space, or one of her rooms in her house. And she asked if some people could hop on a call with her, which I joined, another one of our friends joined. And I was literally doing some research on meals or something like that. And the other friend was playing Minecraft. And our friend was literally just cleaning her room, and there was some conversation, but for the most part, we were just doing our own thing. And she did get a lot of the cleaning done, which is very nice. But also, it's like, if she's getting distracted, I can be like, "Hey, I noticed you were getting distracted. Have you completed the cleaning that you had set out to do for the day?" And it just helps get back on track. But accountability. Sorry. Body doubling, it is useful. I don't know how many people use it. I've used it a couple of times. It's very helpful. If you guys have used it, please let me know your experiences. If it works for you, if it doesn't, I freaking love hearing about other people's stories, honestly. But another thing that here's one thing that everyone hears all the time. It's just a staple. It's known. It's just well regarded as a general beneficial use of time, which is exercise. So I didn't really start doing any what's called routine exercise, regular exercise, until I started doing rock climbing. And I tried doing it back in high school, but never really made the cut, or never really had the itch to do anything physical. But I did do like robotics and chess and all these like brain nerdy things, just nerd things. But about 3 or 4 years ago, I got into rock climbing, and that has changed everything for me, because honestly, I've tried doing cardio, I've tried doing weightlifting, but it just doesn't scratch the same itch that rock climbing does. And when you exercise, first of all, there's a lot of honestly physical and mental benefits of exercise. Because physical, obviously, you're staying healthy, you're being healthy, you are gaining muscle, you are gaining whatever heart power, heart strength. I don't know. But anyways, it's just beneficial for your body to exercise and maintain a regular routine of exercise. So I've been reading a book called Driven to Distraction by Edward Hallowell and John Ratey. And here's what they say on exercise. So when you schedule exercise into your life and stick with it, it helps you work off excess energy and aggression in a positive way, allows for noise reduction in the mind. It stimulates the hormonal and neurochemical system in a most therapeutic way. And it soothes and calms the body. And I mean, it does. Honestly, whenever I do rock climbing, I feel the pump. I feel good. And the next day is honestly very productive. I feel good. And I was talking with Jeannie. She was on an episode on one of my recent episodes. And one of her sons has ADHD and on the spectrum as well. And she mentioned that when he would do exercise, the next day will be one of his best days, best school days. Like very productive, very attentive, and just great at doing what was necessary of him to have a good school day. And so I have the hyperactive side of ADHD as well as distractibility. But when I exercise, when I do rock climbing, it helps me burn out a lot of that excess energy that I may have, especially if I'm sitting all day or I feel like I haven't done enough activity. It just helps me burn a lot of that, and then I feel tired, and then I get a good night's rest, and the next day just feels good because I've done my physical activity, I've had a good night's rest, and it just feels phenomenal. And even on days when I'm not really doing much and I don't have my rock climbing schedule, which is Tuesdays and Thursdays, I find that, especially if I'm reading, if it's something that doesn't require me to be active, if I'm reading or writing, sometimes I'll walk around while reading or writing. Or if I'm editing a video and I'm just feeling very just drained, I'll get up, walk around for a little bit, or sometimes I'll even go do a little bit more and go to the nearby park and do a run, go for a walk, and just be there for about 30 minutes to an hour, and then come back and get right back into what I was doing. And that helps me so much. Get a lot of the pent up energy out of my system and go right back into some of the dull tasks at hand. I'm not saying that I just realized that this is something for ADHD. It's something that I've known for a while, but that I haven't really, first of all, I haven't really talked about or haven't really dug deep into on the side of it, of how it affects me as someone with ADHD, just because I enjoyed doing rock climbing and I just went just because I really enjoyed it. But something that I did just recently find out about is something called the spotlight effect, which is a cognitive bias where people overestimate how much others notice their appearance, actions, and behaviors. That is very true. I honestly used to be really, really bad with this, but as I've started doing more things for myself, I realized that I've become a lot more comfortable with being selfish with my time, and it becomes a lot easier to get away from this spotlight effect that affects so many people, especially people with ADHD, where anxiety is the second most common, or the most common, what's called co-disorder, which means that if you have ADHD, it is super common for you to also have some sort of anxiety disorder. And a good example of this is, I keep going back to rock climbing, that's just because I have so many good examples. But I went to the gym because I just got my membership, and obviously I knew no one. And if you're unfamiliar with how rock climbing works, there's bouldering, which is just the 15-foot walls and the huge soft mats. And then there's top rope, which has the ropes, but you're still attached. And then there's lead climbing, which has a rope, but you you attach the rope onto the clips as you're climbing. Yeah, and there's more than that, but those are the three that I mainly work on. And so I didn't have anyone to help me with the rope stuff because you need someone to belay you. I mean, I knew no one. And so as I was walking around trying to find people, in my head, I'm thinking, oh man, dude, they're just going to say no. They're just going to think that I'm weird for asking. They're just going to think that I have no friends. They're just going to think that yada yada, all this stupid shit in my head that no one really cares about, because the reality of it is no one is thinking about these things as harshly as you are thinking about them yourself. And so I'm walking around, and it takes me about 5 minutes to muster up the courage to talk to this one person and be like, hey, I'm new here, I'm looking for someone to belay or climb with, the belay, yada yada yada. And hey, they were so responsive, they were so friendly, and I got to join their little group that they were in and meet new people and made new friends. And it was just, it's not at all how I envisioned, because I am thinking about these things at a much harsher level about myself versus what other people are thinking. There was one day where I just completely couldn't talk to anyone just because of this spotlight effect, where I was just in such a negative mind thought loop, and it just didn't allow me to talk to anyone. And I just went home that day, which is not exactly the kind of progress you want to be making. And this isn't always gonna work, because one of these weekends, I was climbing in the morning, and I finally mustered up the courage to talk to a group of people. And one of them said, yeah, I'll give you some belays. But it was very apparent that they weren't as invested in the connection as I was, especially being new to the gym. Right? Like, I was giving a lot into the conversations, and they weren't really giving anything. They were looking back at their friends. And even when I offered to belay them, they were like, no, I'm going to go climb with my friends. But I still got the belays in, which is really, really nice of them. And one of their friends even came up to me and said, hey, I really appreciate you just coming up to us and, asking. Not many people will do that. But anyways, that connection wasn't really working out. So while she was climbing, I went up to someone else and asked if they wanted to climb with me. And now me, her, and her fiance are now super close, and we climb regularly on a weekly basis, which is phenomenal, because that's exactly what I look for. But it's that whole spotlight effect of that's that spotlight effect that's stopping you from doing some of the things that you want, where you have to go and put yourself out there just a little bit. It will, when you do these things, it does force you to kind of be selfish with yourself, because even though you're thinking all of these things, you have to really fight back. You just have to just not think about it. But just do the thing, especially in social situations. Just do the thing. Just go talk to the people. I'm sure, because everyone loves a good connection, right? And you won't know a good connection until you actually go out and seek it. And that is something that I strive to do, something that I try to do with my friend groups. I try to include as many people as I can, and I just love doing that. I love being selfish with my time and other people's times. Obviously not to an extreme level, but to some degree, because it allows for me to do the things that I want. And if they want to do it, then that's fine. If not, then that's fine as well. But I love tiny things because it allows me to be selfish with my time. And if other people join, then that's me being selfish with their time in a way. These are just some of the things that I've noticed throughout my ADHD-driven life, ADHD-filled life, and some of the ways that I've noticed these things have affected me, and things that I've realized are new for me as well. And one of my takeaways would probably be not to criticize yourself too harshly. don't think too hard about what people might be thinking about you, and just go do the thing, right? Be selfish. Be a little bit selfish, because no one is thinking about yourself as harshly as you are thinking about yourself. And I really want that to stick.